So the one that's going to care is you, and only you. And in theory, your supportive, significant other. I'm being a smart ass now. Until Valentine's Day, you work. Until her birthday, you work on. Until Christmas, you work on, or Hanukkah, whatever your day is. You can only depend on you. That's it. There is nobody else. And so when we're doing the weekly reports and we're doing the Zoom calls, I will have already told you on the weekly report the reasons that you give why you didn't get more accomplished. I'm not interested in all that because at the end of the day, it's you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be the guy creating the wealth. At the end of the day, you're going to be deciding where you put the wealth. You, not your friends, fools, and family, your significant others, etc. And it's the ultimate taking responsibility for your actions. And this program really that's what it's all about. It's ultimately, for the first time, you being held responsible for everything you do. In more cases, everything you don't do. It's not the things that you don't do, or do. If you keep pulling the trigger, when you keep pulling the trigger, isn't going to get you in trouble in this program. It's not pulling the trigger. Because in the past, that's what you've done, is you haven't pulled the trigger because of all the things that we've talked about ad nauseum, all the things you've been afraid of, all the things that your families have led you to believe wrongfully. And here we are. It doesn't matter how you got here. The important thing is that you got here. And it doesn't matter how you get through the year. It's important that you get through the year. Like in the Navy SEAL thing is, the words that you're not going to think of, or they tell you, is quitting. And you're doing a day at a time because the program is so physically straining, mentally straining. And this is not dissimilar to that. This is not so much physically straining your bodies, but it will put your brain through a strain. And as I said more than once, more than one of you will get physically ill because your immune system isn't strong enough to push yourself. And as we've read some of the things, and you heard, excuse me, a tape by Elon Musk, or from Elon Musk, a speech he made a few years ago about, give me somebody that does a 100-hour week, and he'll get done in 4 months what it takes somebody that's working 40-hour week. And it's the same program. And for those of you that have other jobs and you've got other, things that split your time over, we have people that have gone through this that have full-time 40, 50-hour-a-week jobs, even longer, and get it done. And you're going to learn what time management's really all about. And when you keep you keep track of your time. Now, have you been back to your rooms to see your gifts yet, or your little goodies? Are they there yet? Not yet? No, okay. I don't want to steal the thunder, but you should have the 8 gigafucks, the book, and a couple other things. So that means nobody could have lost it yet. Okay, nobody could have lost it. As I said just a couple minutes before we started, I'm not going to go through the financial misconceptions because we've already been through all of them at least 10 times. So I'm going to go through where I know you need the most, and that's in the actual how do you get the pricks to sell, role play, how do you get the pricks to sell. And I mean that in an affectionate way, the pricks, because they're just numbers to me, and they're going to be just numbers to you. And how do you handle objections? How do you overcome objections? Everything that I'm going to talk about the next couple of hours is still part of the program, is in the book, just said a little differently. Everything I'm going to say, it's on the tapes, on YouTube, etc. Okay, any questions before we get going? Okay. Now, the next role play that you wanted was accountants. Why are we going to do accountants first? Because accountants, remember, chairman, rest of the board, accounting firm, law firm, banks, potential motivated seller. Because accountants are easier than lawyers. Lawyers ask the harder questions, and lawyers will give you credit that you already have a big law firm on board, because they will think that, in most cases, they will have put you through the ringer. They will have asked you hard questions. They will have done their due diligence. So for some time, and also, so the lawyers will say, well, PwC, approved these guys, so they must be better than they look. As will the banks give you credit for those accountants and the lawyers, and not just the dream team, because the dream team is really the extended dream team. It's not just the chairman, CEO in some cases, COO, CFO, industry expert, lawyer, and accountant. The extended dream team is all that plus the accountants and your law firm. So it's the extended dream team. And you will be using them on your executive summary, which you have several different examples of executive summaries, not just in the book, but in the 8 gigabytes and the YouTubes and templates. Now, some places, they're not called templates. Some places, they're called examples. So when you're going through the 8 gigs and you say example, well, that may be a template. Okay, sometimes they're called templates, examples, but in one way, form or another, examples of everything that we've covered here are in the materials that you're going to get. Okay, so now we have put together an executive summary based on our dream team. And you've got examples of executive summary with it, that, 5 or 6 different examples. But that executive summary should, some of the things that it should say, I'm getting the accountants, but I want to say what the executive summary should have. 1, how many years your team has experience. 140, 150, whatever it is. So some of you kids have had 200 years, because you get 3 guys with 50 years, and then it's not that difficult to get to 200 years. So this is, remember, you're an investment team or investment consortium. The consortium is just the bigger words that means the same thing. Team, investment team. And remember, you're picking a generic area. Let's say healthcare is probably a $50 billion industry in America. I'm guessing. I don't know what it is. It must be a 50 billion pound industry here in the UK. If you're talking about Europe, if you're just one of the countries in the EU, I mean, it's not going to be as big. So you talk about EU numbers. If you're in Estonia or Lithuania, Bulgaria, Romania, and all those other countries, you're talking about the EU, because the numbers won't be as big if you're just talking about Romania or Estonia. And so you're talking about your concept is we're gonna be a major force in the world. You can say we're going to control the world in that industry. Some big, bodacious words, because they know when they're reading that executive summary that you're never going to be bigger than your highest expectation. Oh, they'll think, well, it's a new group and it sounds like shit, but at least they've got big goals, as opposed to we're going to control 58 in Lexington in New York City, of that street corner or something, or we're going to control Brisbane in Australia or wherever. Okay. I used to tease the Australians, we're going to control all of it in Tasmania, every bit of it in Tasmania. Well, there is hardly anything in Tasmania, so, okay. So your executive summary has been good enough to get you your dream team. So now you've isolated accountants. My recommendation, when Dan recommends, it means listen to me, moron. Don't start with the big 4. Start, anybody on the top 10 accounting firms is good. It used to be the big 8, then the big 6, and now it's the big 4. But start start more modest than that. So I would start. We have people in the top 20, 25 accounting firms worldwide for your practice presentations. And again, depending on where you live, if you live in Los Angeles, start in Bakersfield, start in San Diego, start in Santa Barbara. If you live in Manhattan, start in Connecticut. So you don't want to step on your dick too close to home. And In London, you can start in Liverpool, Brighton, wherever. But all, London, Liverpool, Manchester, Edinburgh, Glasgow, all have the accountants you need. Those are pretty much the financial centers here in Britain. I'm not going to go through the exercise again if Belfast is Britain or not, and go through all that. But the smaller the geographic area, the more chance you have to step on your own dick. But you have to practice more, in my experience. So now we're going to give you the benefit of that you've practiced. Okay, and so now you're with BDO. BDO, I think, is number 5 or 6 in the accounting firms, and you've sent your executive summary, and you got a response. Okay, and again, the accounting firm that you use and the law firm you use are not the accounting firm and the law firm that your board of directors came from, because there's going to be an inherent conflict. If they have a retirement income from their pension plan or their 401k, whatever the equivalent thereof, they will have a conflict with the firm will have a conflict based on if your CFO is from BDO, BDO will have a conflict. So you're going to use somebody else other than who is already on your board. So BDO has nothing to do with the accounting partner, retired accounting partner on your board, or your CFO. Okay, so now with BDO, we've sent the executive summary, and you follow up with the call. Okay, now it's slightly easier when you've sent the executive summary to get through gatekeepers. Okay, I've corresponded, or as they say here, I love this. I have liaised. Now I don't really know what the fuck that means, but it sounds like some sort of psychedelic sexual deal. I have liaised with them. But when you tell the gatekeeper, I have liaised with so-and-so previously, then, you liaised, you talked to him, or you had some sort of communication. Now, in the United States, I've had some smart-ass remarks back from different parts of the country when they try to use the word liaise. And in Oklahoma, that dog don't hunt. And certain other parts of the United States, liaise don't hunt. But in Europe, it does hunt. Okay, I have had discussions with, or correspondence with. You haven't had discussions, but you have had correspondence with, because you've written it. The fact that he didn't write you back, correspondence means one way. It doesn't necessarily mean two-way. Okay? Okay, and so you'll get straight through. One of the reasons it's easier to get through to the accounting firms is because it's a service business now. They're desperate for business. They're desperate. So now you've gotten through, and you've made an appointment. Some of the kids, because of the new internet era that we're in, are able to do what I'm about to do just on the internet. I like my accountants to have seen me face to face, because you can't get feedback. You don't know, on a phone call, you think you know what's going on because you're hearing them, but unless you're looking at them, and even though you can see them on a Skype or a reasonable facsimile of Skype, the best feedback, verbal feedback, and body language feedback you can get is face to face. So now I've called up and they do have business development partners at the big accounting firms. You maybe get shoved with a business development guy, but ultimately you want anybody that's going to, at the BDO, that's going to make a meeting with you. Okay. Now, when you're on the phone, thank you very much for taking my call. You've read my executive summary. They may say yes, they may not know what you're talking about, but you have already sent it to them. At the end of the phone call, you send them another, irrespective of how the phone call goes, you send them another executive summary. And you say, pursuant to our conversation of 11:15 this morning, or whenever it was, pursuant to our conversation, because that'll get it past the secretary. Because now you really have liaised. You really have talked to him, okay? Pursuant to our conversation, you try to do it the same day you talk to him, or it's pursuant to our conversation of yesterday. I am forwarding you another copy of our executive summary, and to refresh your memory, we are a investment consortium that's directed into whatever niche in healthcare. And don't put bedpans, but assisted living or whatever. my default is I call them bedpans, and so once in a while I make that mistake. Now, I get away with the mistake; everybody laughs. But you should say assisted living or whatever it is. And what we discussed and now there's two different ways to do this. You can bring up never contingent fees. They're either rolled or delayed fees. Rolled or delayed. The new modern buzzwords are rolled or delayed. And unfortunately, some of you who can't help yourself, you'll say contingent. But that, by definition, accountants can't do contingent work because of GAAP, General Accepted Accounting Procedures. Their work and or opinion cannot be contingent on anything, okay, other than the facts. And so if it's contingent on a fee, they can't do it. So that's why you're not going to say contingent fee. You're going to say delayed or rolled. Now, in the meeting, you're sitting in the meeting. Hi, thank you very much, Mr. Jones. And as I said yesterday, they will. You can tell how high they rate the team and the deal by the size of room they put you in. You know, and nobody meets in offices anymore. They now meet in little conference rooms or big conference rooms.
Who do you bring with you? Okay,
I'm going to get to that. Okay. The first meeting you get when you're practicing down below yourself. Let's not burn out your poor directors on practice meetings. Now, ostensibly, you need the practice. They don't. Now, I'm going to jump ahead. If you go to a meeting and you bring one of your directors and you can see he can't talk, then you back up and practice with them as well. But giving them the benefit of the doubt, they didn't have 25 years doing this without talking to somebody. And so they should be able to talk. So the first meeting's a practice, and you're doing it. But we're beyond that now. We're at BDO. So you were going to bring either your CFO or an industry expert. You don't want to overload them. Now, some of you guys will get boards that are all excited. They want to go to the meetings because they got nothing to do and all day to do it in. They're retired. You know, their old lady wants to kick them out of the house. They're tired of playing golf. But don't take too many. And you can rotate. You can take one guy one time, another guy another time, and you can take different people to meetings. That's the good news. If you have that problem, that's a good problem. That's a good that you have more than one, because you're going to go to a lot of meetings, and that one guy might get tired. One gal. The gals never get tired for some reason. Guess what? The girls never get tired. They can go to all kinds of meetings, and the guys do get tired. But that's a whole other story we can talk about tonight over drinks. And so now you're at the meeting, and if your CFO or industry expert will take the lead, then let them, because they're going to have more credibility than you anyway, if they will. Now, before you get to the meeting, you're having a cup of coffee with the guy downstairs, or the gal. And you're going over, what are we going to accomplish? You have a little agenda. You know, some of you write it on your hands. I'm not suggesting that, because then when they see it written on your hands, that's a whole other story. But you're down there, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. We want them to do delayed fees for us on a roll basis. And you've already explained this to them. You don't, in the middle of the meeting, you don't want your CFO to say, oh, they won't do that. That's contingent. And we've had that happen, where the guy spits out, and that's why you practice with the guy before you get there, and you're talking to him, and you say, this is what we, at the end of the day, we want to leave with a general agreement. You're telling your guy, your CFO or industry expert, we want to leave with a general agreement that they accept delayed fees. Now, there's two ways to do this now. Straight away, you obviously have done business with venture capital. You understand the venture capital model. So you're presupposing and BDO has done business with venture capital. And if they have done business with venture capital, you're going to have to read about it on my website, guys. Over and out for now. Thanks, YouTube.